bringing you everything from the sensually sublime to the hardcore subjects guaranteed to make you cringe, blush, and maybe even toss your cookies. The National Organization for Sensual Safety presents new and safe ways to play inside the bedroom and out. Because if you don't know what you're doing, things can go terribly wrong. This is the only BDSM and kink safety show for people who never want their sexual exploration to end.
Hi, I'm Ann Cook, and we're here today to talk about tying people up, which is a pretty popular subject with the book 50 Shades of Grey. People have been coming out of the woodwork for BDSM. If you don't know what that means, it's bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism. In the case of this book, it's more of domination and submission, which some of you may just be learning about. But rope is one of the big subjects that always comes up when we talk about this. It's always had a mystique surrounding it, and it's one of the first things that people think about whenever they think about being kinky. So with the new popularity of books like 50 Shades of Grey, I have been approached by couples who want to try this in the bedroom, but their men are usually afraid that they'll hurt them, and so they don't want to do it. Or the opposite, you have women that are just crazy, wanting anyone to tie them up to a bedpost. Being someone in the kinky lifestyle and seeing what could happen to people, I have to say that is really frightening. And we're about education here. So we have someone with us today that's going to talk to us about the real life of tying people up and not the fantasy, or is it the fantasy? Today we're here with Ao. Hi, Ao.
Hello.
He's going to enlighten us about as much as he can on a podcast without seeing it visually and take a little bit of the mystery out of tying people up. So, Ao, would you say that tying people up has been a little bit stereotyped in the world of kink?
Oh, absolutely. More often than not, people tend to look at it as, I don't have the money to buy leather cuffs and chains and all of that. Oh, but I can go pick up rope relatively cheaply at the hardware store, and so it's something that is readily accessible, and so people tend to think of rope as like how to cuff someone to a bed or how to tie someone to a spanking bench or something like that. And it gets pretty marginalized, and it also gets pretty glorified for the simplicity of it, I guess.
Okay, I think so too. And I'm not sure that people put anything into the thought about, a couple of things. There's the actual art of being tied up, which I'm excited for you to tell us about, or also the safety of being tied up and dangers in it. So I really want to talk about those two things. It's been said about you, Ao, that tying with Ao is like always being in the eye of the storm. It's safe and peaceful in the center, yet you're completely surrounded by very concentrated violence, destruction, and chaos the entire time. So why don't you tell us your history about how you got into tying people up and rope itself?
Well, I've been involved in the BDSM lifestyle for over a decade now. I first got involved by the particular individual that I respected greatly. Left some things on his computer, and I saw it, and I was like, "Ooh, what is this? I must learn more of this." And then I went the way of the same thing with the I don't have the money to go and buy cuffs and chains and all of that, so I picked up some rope, and like many others before me, I started with rope by simply tying my partners to the bed, forcing them into a specific position and using them in that. But I always felt like there was something more to do with rope because, as you look online and as you look and try and find new ways of rope, you'll occasionally, back then, you would occasionally come across this Shabari thing where rope was more of an artistic expression than just a kinky thing to do to someone in the bed. I was always very, very excited about it and kind of curious, and then I'd say about 2 years ago, I really started, it's time for me to really start looking into this and doing more about it.
Let me probe you right there. You said a word that I don't think a lot of people are going to be familiar with. It's Shabari. Can you tell us what that is?
Shabari is an Americanized term to use to describe Japanese rope bondage. It is the word Shabari itself is more in reference to tying neat little packages, but in the United States it's referenced, and more so over in Japan, it's referencing the bondage aspect of rope. The end result is Shabari. The overall form is Shabari. The act of tying is called kinbaku, or the beauty of tight binding.
Okay. Do you think there's danger involved in not only Shabari, I'm sure there is, but the basics of tying someone up? Do you think there's dangers involved in that?
Oh yeah, I mean rope because it's something that's so readily accessible, so easy. People tend to forget that rope is edge play. Even simply tying someone's wrists up, you have a lot of compression on arteries and very gentle bones and the hands, and dangers in that direction.
Okay.
As you get further and further along into it, there's more and more dangers, especially as you start getting into suspension and very violent capture ties sort of things.
I know with myself, the first time I was ever tied up, someone just bonded me on my wrists, and I got very lightheaded, very dizzy, and it was 5 minutes into it, I had flu-like symptoms. Have you ever heard of anything like that happening before?
Yeah, I mean, it's about when you start restricting, you can start restricting blood flow all over the place. It's an entire closed system, so it requires it's called a circulatory system for a reason. So if you block it in one area, you're blocking flow as it goes the entire body. People tend to not think of, well, if I'm just binding the wrists, then how dangerous can it be elsewhere?
Mm-hmm. And then what about when someone wants to get away? I mean, I know there's how tight you tie the ties. Keeping in mind, before we go into Shabari, keeping in mind that the people that are listening may have not even heard of the BDSM lifestyle, may not know there's a network out there where they can get help from. What are some things that you can share that might help a new couple to do this?
I can't stress the importance of understanding anatomy and physiology. There's a lot of very basic there's a lot of basic courses that you can take, like CPR and first aid courses that you can get through the American Red Cross, and a lot of local hospitals have various things that you can learn, and of course the schools and whatnot. There's also a lot of stuff available online. There's some great websites out there that specifically talk about anatomy and how blood flows through the body, and understanding that, and then applying it and finding out some of the basics about your partner's body. I can't stress that as being the first major step towards being safe when it comes to rope. Each body is different, and even though you can go and take a lot of courses and study a lot about anatomy and physiology, if you're not taking that knowledge and applying it to your partner, mm-hmm. then it's of no use. So learning your partner's body and understanding like where the bones and where the various nerve clusters in your partner's body are is really the first step to being safe, because you can learn, once you know where those danger points are, you can learn to avoid them.
Okay, well that's really good information, but let's say I'm going to put you on the line even more here, no pun intended, but let's say I'm a husband, my wife is reading this book, she's really hot on it, and I just want to tie her up tonight. I'm not going to go take those classes, or those are things that are really intimidating. What would I do if I just wanted to tie her up?
Well, if you just wanted to tie her up and you wanted to make sure that it was just restrictive, I would use something like a silk scarf. There's no reason to go and use rope and get and go that far into it if you're just trying it out for the first time. Most men have ties, like a necktie that they can take, and at that point, if I'm going to tie something absolutely basic without any real knowledge of extra safety protocols, but I really want to do it anyway, I would tie just tightly enough so that they can't pull free immediately. Most of the time, with some effort, they will eventually be able to get free. But if you're tying it so that they have the restrictive capability, the restrictive aspects of it, I would go and look into your closet, pull out some old ties, some old neckties, and that's what I would do if I didn't know anything extra safety about that. That's what I would do.
Okay, that's a great idea. I like that idea, the necktie idea. Or even the wives can go and get the necktie and give it to their husbands or their partner to use, right? Why should one of the complaints I've heard from well, not complaints, but why women like this book so much is that, Christian Grey did not tell, he didn't have to ask the woman what she wanted. He just knew. And so just one suggestion I want to make is that the woman get the tie out of the closet and just put it on the bed. And she can direct him how to do it. Have you ever had anyone direct you as far as how they want to be tied up? Is there a lot of communication that happens when you're having what we call in this community a scene, when you're actually tying someone up? How much communication goes into it?
At first, well, now most people don't really talk to me much about. They just say, "Hey, I want to get tied up," and they kind of trust me to know what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, you're a pro.
At first, really, when I first started discussing it, doing it for scenes, I would talk to the person I would be doing it with. I would say, "Hey, this is kind of what I have in mind. This is kind of what I want to do," and then I would get their input from it, and I would ask them what it is that they particularly want to get out of the rope. If they just want the bondage aspect of it, or they want something pretty, or if this is going to be part of something. If I'm just going to be tying them down to do other things to them. And then they would tell me, yes, I'd like to have my hands tied behind my back. How you do it doesn't particularly matter. Or I'd like to be hog-tied, or I'd like to not be able to move at all. That is generally the very beginning types of questions. And then, people come to me all the time with various requests. Of course, I have a pretty extensive repertoire of things that I've done, and people tend to say, "Hey, I like what you did with so-and-so when you did this. Can we do that?" And then we
wow. There. So now tell our audience, are there places that you've actually tied people up publicly that they can see? Because how are they finding out about how you're doing it with other people?
There is a social networking site called FetLife. I have a pretty extensive gallery there. FetLife is, for those that don't know, is kind of like Facebook for kinky people. It's fetlife.com. It's run out of Canada. I have a very extensive gallery there. I also have a website. It's frostlotus.net. And a lot of the work that I've done is posted there for people to go and peruse at their leisure. And a lot of people see my work there, or they've seen me perform in public, and they wanna experience some of the things that I can do.
Okay, where would someone go? Where would a couple that is brand new to this lifestyle, so they can go to FetLife? Can they find out about places on FetLife that they can go and see people be tied up? Or are there places that you can recommend in the Florida area that they can go?
Well, there are random shows all the time. I performed relatively recently several times here. Your local scene, like the local people that are also involved in this. The way that the site is set up is that you can input your city and your state and your country, and then you are looking for groups that are already formed in that area. If you want to know what's going on, oftentimes the best way to do that is to begin to link up and find out what's going on there.
Okay, good. Why don't you tell us about a sensual scene you've had with someone where you've tied them up?
Well, sensuality is a matter of personal opinion, I think. And what I consider sensual tends to be a little harsh. I tend to be a little brutal how I tie. My partner, my standard partner, she finds it to be pretty exciting. Sensual in terms of the slow, gentle caress. That is something I tend to not do in public very often, simply because of how